Good morning, everybody. Today we're receiving Yanis Tipurides. So he's a veteran, a dinosaur in the sector. He's been around since the 80s, right? So there's a lot of knowledge that will come from him. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about his career. We're going to talk about the change that he's seen over time since he's been included, invested in this industry. And we're also going to talk about the news, right? What we see in the news, 1.5 degrees. Yeah, there was a special news about that. He's going to have a mention about it. And we're also going to be looking at what kind of locally credible solutions can we be doing and how can we manage the transition out of fossil fuel. I tell you, there is a lot that we'll cover. This is an episode you don't want to miss. So pay attention and thank you for listening. Welcome to Renewables in Action, the podcast that gives you all the information you want to know about renewable energy across the world. Let's create the renewable energy world that we want to see with Renewable in Action podcast. Stay tuned. Hello, good morning, Yanis. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's a cloudy morning, but I'm still fine.
Cloudy in Greece. How is it
Yes,
possible?
imagine. The Sun King is playing with us this last few days.
Okay.
Uh,
Maybe the
maybe he's
sun
punishing us.
maybe the sun has still not recovered since I left Greece, because I was born there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yanis, it's a delightful pleasure for me just to talk to you today. I was actually really looking forward to it, and I'm so glad you were able to make some time for our conversation. And I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to cover. But before we actually kickstart into the discussion per se, because you and I we know each other for what, a few years now.
Quite.
But what I like to give as well to people that listen to us, it's the opportunity to really hear from you. So they probably would like to start by finding out who is Yanis Tipouridis. So hopefully I
Oh,
pronounced it
wow.
well.
I'm impressed. Pronunciation of the surname was excellent. So,
Excellent, thank you.
Yannis Tsipouridis is a renewables consultant engineer. He's been in the field for 45 years. He was so lucky to be in this field. I started in 78 in darkest, cloudy England, my PhD in solar energy. I mean, you couldn't have chosen the more wrong place to do a PhD in solar energy. But I had a fantastic professor, Alan Williams, who secured a grant for me. So I did my PhD in solar energy in Leeds, Yorkshire. And since then, I've been all my life involved with renewables. So I consider myself very lucky. I've worked in the public sector in the utility in Greece. I've worked in the private sector in Greece. And for the past 5 going to 6 years now, I'm in Africa. And I can't be happier than that. I'm in Kenya. I've been coming and going since 2018. Now I have 3 official titles in Kenya. I'm the director of the Renewable Energy and Climate Change Research Center at TUM University in Mombasa. I'm also a visiting professor at TUM University. And as of 1st of May this year, I'm a visiting professor at Meru University in Kenya. So I think I'm a very lucky guy, and I'm
I
really
mean,
enjoying all of them.
Kenya is becoming very important for you. I can even see that you have a wristband, with Kenya.
Not one, two, not one.
Two. Okay. If somebody wasn't convinced about your love for Kenya, there you go. That's actually excellent. Well, I think that's very impressive what you're hearing. And I can see, like you say, your career started 45 years ago. There's not that you definitely a veteran, a dinosaur in the sector. There's not many like you, I would say.
Yeah, a dinosaur of sorts. Yeah, a veteran. Yeah, 45 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And during that time, and that's one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you because I could pretty much say you've seen it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've seen so many things. And I just wanted you to talk to me about the changes that you've seen globally, in the sector, right? Not just in Europe, but also in emerging market, Africa, Asia. Because I think
Yeah.
what is great with your career, I was looking at that even recently, you've pretty much worked on all those different, fields, and you have a knowledge across the board globally. So what is the change have you seen over your 45-year career in the space?
Okay. Actually, I was thinking about that the other day as I was writing an article for a Greek newspaper regarding solar energy for a start. Solar energy was even viable and feasible technically even then. In the 80s, we were installing 100 kilowatt photovoltaic plants in Greece in the 82, 83, 84. So why didn't we take off even then? Because the matching of technology and science with the markets and politicians came too late. It hasn't really come yet. I mean, this mismatch is what we pay for. Mm-hmm. I'm coming to the end of the climate change. This is what we're paying for. The markets and politicians have not realized the tools, the ammunition they had in their power to use to avoid climate change. So solar energy has always been there. The same is with wind energy. Of course, they have improved, especially wind energy. Wind energy has gone from 15, the first wind turbine we installed in Greece was 15 kilowatt. Now they install 15 megawatt, in offshore wind. So things have changed. It's scaling up really. It's not really technology. Of course, there have been some technological improvements. Definitely they have. But the real progress was in scaling up the technology that was available to produce large numbers of the energy needed. The same with geothermal energy. Now, wave energy and tidal energy, they're coming up behind. They're not really there yet commercially, but they're coming. So what I'm trying to say is that renewables as a viable alternative for energy production was always there. And renewables is inexhaustible, it's abundant. Everybody has renewables. You don't need to wage wars to secure renewable energy. It's there. It will go through your enemy's land. It will come to your land as well. Everybody has renewable energy. So peace, democracy. Why don't we use it? And it saves us from climate change. I mean, I don't really have the answer to that. Well, I do, but let's leave it for later.
Yeah. And you said one thing. You said that it was viable back then, 1982 or thereabout. But the politician chose, right, or were not aware of it. So is it that they were not aware of it or they were purposely ignoring it? And if that's the case, why, according to you? Because I like to have your opinion because, like I say, you've been in the sector for so long. We don't make many of you anymore, right? So
okay.
I like to find out.
Well, I'll answer that. It's a very, very important question, and the answer, I think, is important too. This is 2023. The sixth synthesis report of the IPCC came a few weeks ago, and it says, we're done. I want to use another word, but I don't really want to spoil your podcast. We're done. Okay, we're done. I mean, 1.5 degrees, we lost it. There's no way we can keep it below 1.5 degrees. The thing is, how higher than 1.5 we're going to go. This is the gist of it. And yesterday, as I was browsing around, I came across a site called Investors Something, and they were saying that climate change is a hoax. 2023, a site paid by, you can guess who, was promoting the climate denial, even now. So these are the two extremes, the reality and the denial. Why would somebody deny? Why would somebody deny? When people are dying daily from Italy to Malawi, from California to Pakistan, people are dying from extreme weather events caused by climate change. So why would they deny it? They denied it because the market does not really want to change now. The market still sees high revenues from fossil fuels, so they think it would be nice to continue exploring, exploiting, profiteering from fossil fuels. And then after they are done, okay, renewables are there, we know it. We will be the ones who will do big renewables. But with climate change, there is the issue of time. You cannot do it when you want. Science is science, okay? It's an exact science. So you know that you don't have the time to wait for 10, 20 years. It's going to be a disaster, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but people may be actually accusing you, and maybe to some extent, people like myself, to actually pushing out the doom and gloom, right? Message. And they say that, well, humanity, the world has always had challenges, right? We always had. So they would say, why now as opposed to before? And is it not just pushing the doom and gloom and making things worse on purpose? So what would you say to that? Why? But the thing is, the good thing with you, again, let me just reiterate that. I mean, you've been around for 45 years, so I believe you have some idea of what has happened or what has improved over the lifetime that you spend in the job. So why would you say it's not about pushing the doom and gloom, but just talking about what is actually happening? Why would you say that? Because it's also important because we all living in this planet, this home that is called Earth, right? And then we also need to be engaging with other people and maybe to explain because I know yes, there's climate denial, that's for sure. But there are people that are genuine out there looking to really properly find the information without being necessarily as well being taken for granted. That's what makes I need to understand without understanding the why. What is the why? Why should they believe what Yanis has to say?
No, because Yanis is just quoting science. Yanis is not quoting himself. Yanis is quoting science. And the one thing we have to respect, this is the ground of any discussion, science, okay? I'm not going to discuss with QAnon people in the USA. They will never be persuaded. But science, is what has brought us up to here. Science has provided vaccines that make us live 85 and 90 years, okay? So this is an answer to COVID vaccination. Close the parenthesis. Climate change is something that's happening now and is happening in decades. Climate change has happened on this planet before, over millennia. It's the first time it's happening in decades. Nobody has time to adapt. If it was happening over millennia, life adapts. We don't have time to adapt. The climate is the one defining parameter for life. The climate defines what kind of trees grow, what kind of animals survive, what kind of dwellings and cities we can build. By half this century, almost 400 million people is estimated will be climate immigrants, migrants. They're going to be pushed out of their homes because they won't be able to live there. Sea is rising. Of course, it's gloom and doom, but it's reality. You just, okay, don't say it because it's gloom and doom. It's reality. And the reality comes from science. Whatever I say, it's up there. Anybody can go into the IPCC site. It's so helpful. Anything I say is there to be seen. So why don't we react to that? And for me, that's the question. Why don't we react? Why do we need more proof to react to that? And the proof is coming daily. You see, yesterday, Italy, you saw what happened. 11 people died. It rained 170, I think, odd centimeters in 24 hours, rain. It flooded everything. 13,000 people were evacuated and 13 people died. In Italy, no, that's what it is. Everywhere on the planet, people are dying because of extreme weather events. I'll say it from California to Pakistan to Bangladesh. These things did not happen in the frequency they happen. There's nothing magical about climate change. The same things that happened before happen now. More frequently, more powerful, more damaging.
I think I like what you said. And I think one thing that people need to remember and obviously pay attention to, the big difference is that yes, those events were happening, but what we're comparing here is the millennia compared to the decade, the acceleration. That's where all the difference is, meaning that you don't have time to actually adapt. Or if you need to adapt, you need to do that very, very fast, which seem not to be grasping.
No.
Thanks very much for that. I think that's the reason I wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
So you also believe in the 100% renewable, which is also, let's say, quite a striking position because a lot of people, including people myself, would think that we need to have an energy mix, yeah? But you going for the 100% renewable now. So could you explain why you want it now and why do you think it's possible now?
Okay. Why I want it now has to do with the previous discussion. because climate change does not leave us any room for maneuver. We have to change now. What is causing climate change? We didn't discuss. CO2, carbon dioxide emitted when we use fossil fuels. So we need to change that, take it out of the equation. And what can we put in? Renewables. They are there, they're abundant, they're inexhaustible, they will always be there. And technology is also there. Now, can we replace the powerful system of today that can give you the energy you need at the second you want it? Yes, we can, with storage. Nowadays, combination of all renewables and storage can do it. Studies have been carried out. You tell me, can you do it tomorrow? No, I cannot do it tomorrow. But the same question was asked to me 20 years ago. If they started 20 years ago, we would have had it tomorrow. No, we cannot do it tomorrow. We cannot build storage capacity, the storage capacity required to meet the intermittency of wind and sun. But we have geothermal energy. Look at Kenya, look at Italy, look at Turkey, Indonesia, Iceland. Geothermal energy can cover load, okay, base load. Biomass can cover base load. Hydroelectric can cover base load. Then you have wind and the sun, let them come and go. Store them, use them later. Science and technology have provided all the answers. The thing is, do we take them and use them, or we say, nah, we can't have it tomorrow? Of course not. But if we start it today, we'll have it the day after tomorrow. It can be done. It can be done. And now we have to do it.
Yeah, no, that's great. So basically, from what I'm also hearing from you, is that it's a matter of taking a decision, first of all. You decide and then you figure out the solution, as opposed to just saying that it can't be done, hence I'm not going to do anything. Yeah, which is sometimes correlation I like to make with what happened when the Americans decided to go to the moon. You know, I think we all like to be quoting this example of the President Kennedy to say that, you know, by the end of the decade, we're going to be to the moon. Yeah. And at the time, nobody knew that's how it could happen. But they took the decision and they figured out a way to get there. Okay, some people will say they never happened. Hey, the people that, oh, we never be convinced, that's okay. But just coming back to say, it's a matter of just, which is a bit like, oh, as well, coming back to the COVID vaccination that like you mentioned, again, I'm just going to depoliticize it. Yeah, I'm just going to say that. All I'm just going to say is there was a situation, it was definitely threatening the whole world, or the global economy. And in 6 months, we managed to produce something that usually takes decades. Yeah. Some people could be for or against. That's not a debate here. The question is, you take the decision and then you work and find out. And once you've taken a decision, all of a sudden, solution will seem to appear. Why? Because the human mind is ingenious enough, clever enough to figure out a solution. No, that's great. I think
ingenious enough to destroy itself as well.
It goes both ways, right?
Let me add something to my previous answer for those who are already thinking about it. No, we cannot also cover tomorrow transportation. This is the weak link because you cannot cover aeroplanes, shipping, and road transportation. You know the solutions are there, but they need time to develop. Okay, that's the issue. And I come back to that again. If we started 20 years ago, the solution would have been there. We're starting late now. Suddenly, everybody discovered hydrogen. What was hydrogen? Hydrogen was discovered, and everybody goes crazy. You know, when I started my PhD, one of the byproducts of my research, I had a galvanovoltaic cell, was hydrogen. Hydrogen has always been there. Now suddenly, hydrogen is good. It won't be the solution they think it will be, but it's there as well. Our ammunition, what we have in our palette is increasing. Still, total final energy consumption globally, as we speak, is 75 to 80% fossil fuels now. As we speak, no matter how many solars you have, like the ones you have in the background, you put 75% total final energy consumption globally is disheartening. As we speak, and we speak about change of the energy mix, 75 to 80% is still fossil fuels. We need to really drastically change that. I don't have the power to do it. I can talk about it.
You may have more power, right? That's why we're bringing you to the podcast. You may be surprised, the power that you have. So, question for you, because obviously I know you a keen lover of Africa, especially Kenya, where partly live there, and hopefully I should be seeing you in June anyway for the conference, and spend some time with you. But Africa obviously is in a special position, right? And a lot of people in the continent, I know you love the continent, you love the people of the continent, but it's a question of more than a billion people, and there's divergence of opinion, right? So, but there's a lot of people nowadays that would say that they also don't want to be following blindly what the West or the powerful nation would say. And they believe that because Africa was not responsible for causing the climate change, Africa should be allowed the possibility to carry on using its fossil fuel resource, which is also abundant, just as renewables, up onto a certain level. It's judged to be assessed to be developed enough in order now to embark into the transition. So, isn't it what you're saying unsuitable for the continent? Isn't it a little bit dangerous for the continent? Why would you say that Africa should do it right now as opposed to later? What would you say to the other people that say that this is just again another Western idea, Western colonization in terms of the mindset?
Okay. A very good question. Actually, I was answering that question 3 days ago to somebody from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Greece. But let me concentrate on that. As a note, whatever Africa is using, whatever sources is using, it's somebody else's technology. So even if it has the resources, it's still being exploited. Okay? Even if Africa uses its fossil fuel resources, somebody in the global north is going to reap the cream of the revenues from that. So this is not really so African. Okay? The money will not stay in Africa. The money will go out. Let's go to the end. I want to do away with the independence that fossil fuel resources will give to Africa. They won't. They won't, as they haven't now. The global north has sucked Africa dry from resources, and it has built empires in the north. This is politicizing the discussion, so I will stop here with that. It's a valid question, but I'm sorry, I have to revert to the IPCC synthesis report. We don't have time to play with this. Africa, that has not really expanded its energy usage so much and has to do so in order to develop, has to leapfrog and land in renewables, like it did with the mobile phones. Nobody has a landline. Very few people have a landline, but everybody has a mobile phone. The same has to happen with the energy sources. They have to leapfrog above fossil fuels, which anyway belong to big oil in the north. Okay. Total Energies wants to create the East African crude oil pipeline and destroy Uganda on the way. The activists in Uganda are putting up a great fight, and I think they will win in the end. But Africa is the definition of renewable energy sources. Everything is there. So why not send some climate financing, much promised, much committed, and never delivered to African countries? What about putting some money in the Lost and Damaged Fund to give to the African countries who are already facing the brunt of climate change and haven't caused any of it, absolutely any of it? So Africa can develop renewables tomorrow, practically, if somebody gives the money. We don't expect Africa to get a loan to do a renewable project. No way. It's to the benefit of the global north to Africa to develop renewables. So pay. That's my answer to that. And I know that it's ethically, it's absolutely correct. Okay.
Okay. No, that's an interesting answer. So basically, and you brought up the idea of loss and damage, which was obviously one of the main achievement of the previous COP, so COP27. So you seem not to be agreeing with that.
It was accepted as a concept. It's an empty dress.
Yeah.
It has to be filled with money.
Yeah.
I'm also a member of the Loss and Damage Collaboration Group. I'm proud to say.
Okay. I think you're having many hats, I would say.
I have to cover my bald head, so I need a lot of hats.
So I can say you're doing great. So you don't think that the loss and damage would actually be implemented? So okay, I think the idea of the global north paying what they call clearly makes sense, right? I think barely anybody can dispute that, and he has been in principle accepted. That's fine. And what would you say?
I bring down your house and you have to pay to rebuild it?
Yeah. I think that's okay. I think I agree with that. It has to be done. But what would you also say to Africans? Because there's more and more, let's say, richer people in Africa. Okay, it takes time, but it's happening. We're not talking about some billionaires. And the last time I checked, there was about 18 billionaires in the continent.
And the middle class is rising. So,
And the
it's
middle class is
increasing
rising.
numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say to these people about what they can do to accelerate renewables in their home, their continent? Because yes, ask money to other people, that's fine. But what can you do as well for yourself to make sure that you can also make it happen? So what would you say?
I would tell them to listen to people like you who are promoting the development of renewables in Africa
Thank you for
and
that.
develop renewables. That's what they can do. It's there. If they have the money to do it. Okay? They can get loans from banks as private entities, okay? But I don't want the countries to get the loans in order to develop renewables and then own. I mean, Kenya has a fantastic railway line from Nairobi to Mombasa. It's Chinese. They owe it to China. It should be Kenyan. Some
Yeah.
people, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it's I like what you're saying about the loan aspect because I think that's one angle. I've seen many discussions, people let's say that are not pro energy transition agenda attacking attacking this approach, saying that what has been happening in the global north, pushing again more loans to the countries and crippling the economies
Oh wait.
under the banner of the energy transition, the green transition. So that's and I like the fact that you're saying that it should happen that money, but it shouldn't be low.
Definitely no.
Okay, that's very
Already, most African countries live in a prison of debt. Okay, that's what that first of all that cripples their independence and their freedom. It's very easy to take a shot at the governments in Africa and say, "Oh, there is corruption," and all that. Those guys are really up to here in debt for their countries and themselves. Okay, free the countries, free the leaders, and then maybe things will change. But when they are like that in debt, what do you expect to happen in the country? I mean, this is a very bad environment for things to develop.
okay. That's it shows the complexity of the debate that we're having, right? But it needs to be said. So recently, also a couple of days ago, I saw your message on LinkedIn where you were congratulating the world leaders, for achieving, I would say, a great feat, which is about obviously, you know, having a 66% chances of passing the 1.5 degree Celsius for the global warming threshold, between now and 2027. Obviously, I could see that the tone was a bit sarcastic, but what do you have to say to those global leaders? Yeah, because I think, yeah, you definitely wanted to say something there. And I just want to give you the opportunity to say that.
Well, 1.5, let's define 1.5. 1.5 is the lowest point of hell on earth. It's not a paradise. If we reach 1.5, it won't be paradise on earth. It will be hell. It will be a lesser hell than 2 degrees or 2.5. Okay. So we're trying to maintain the hellish conditions to 1.5, and we're passing it 2027. So what do those 27 COPs up to now? What have they succeeded? Zero.
Yeah.
Nothing has really happened. So are they telling us if they hadn't had the COPs, perhaps it would have been already 5 degrees? Maybe. And we're going to COP28 in United Arab Emirates, I mean, the land of big oil, to debate whether fossil fuels will be out. Tony, up to Glasgow, in the decisions of the COP, the term fossil fuels was nowhere to be seen. We were talking about reducing emissions as if emissions were emitted on their own. We didn't name what was causing the emissions. In Glasgow, for the first time, it appeared, and they referred to coal. At COP27, they tried to remove even that, but they failed. Can you imagine that? We don't even name the culprit at COP. That guy, Antonio Gutierrez, I think he's the only guy that I believe he means what he says, so I trust him and I wish him good luck, but I think he's totally alone. You know that governments and markets are hand in hand. Yeah, they depend on each other. Okay, so
yeah, I think you're very much in fighting spirit today. Yeah, I love it. I think
well,
I need to set up a fight between you and Francis Ngannou, right? So PFL. I don't know. You probably don't know who he is, but
okay.
it's an MMA fighter. But
All right, all right. I will take him down with a spitfire.
I love it. I love it. No, that's great. That's great. No, I think what you say, it's a lot of vital information for people to listen. So I think just to be also clear, the 1.5 degree, according to what the report is saying, there's a 66% chance. It doesn't mean that there's a guarantee that it's passed between now and 2027. But
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
If you were boarding a plane and they will tell you it has 66% chance to fall down, will you board? Come on, don't hide
No,
behind statistics. You know,
no.
if 99% of climate scientists are saying we're going the wrong direction, if 99% of the mechanics will tell you don't take your car, it's going to crash, you wouldn't take it. But we're hiding behind, you know, we are facing the possibility that the temperature will go to 4 degrees. 1.5 is nothing compared to 4 degrees. We're facing the possibility. This should be enough to wake us up in our sleep and say, hey, stop, reverse. Not you and me, the guys who are running big oil. They will be, but you know, if you're flying on your Learjet from London to New York to have a cocktail drink at Manhattan, you don't give a ... about climate and about anybody else. So I think it's something that is not in their mind.
Yeah. Let me have a little bit of a controversial question here.
Please.
So I think it's also, I would say to some extent, easier for, let's say, for private citizens like you and I to actually say what we say and shift the blame to the politician. But it's a very difficult job to lead a country. I think for me, I fundamentally have at least a respect for people that run their country because it's difficult to bring things together. I'm not saying necessarily that they're right, but the question I just wanted to ask to you, do you also think that to some extent we are actually shifting the blame to actually cover our own self? Because at the end of the day, according to what things should look like, the leaders just represent us, and they're leaders because to some extent we have elected them. Are we not at fault here, each of us? Because if we really want things to change, don't you think that the mass of people can make it change? Okay. Are we just prisoner of just, like I say, a bunch of people? What would you say?
This is a very important, but it's a philosophical question, and goes back to ancient Greece and how democracy was created and what democracy is. Democracy is an imperfect system, but as I usually say, it's the best we have. Okay? So we're called to select our leaders. We don't select from an infinite pool of leaders. We select the ones that put themselves up for election. And usually the people who put up themselves for election, I don't want to comment now because I may be liable later. So really your choice is limited. If you go to the supermarket to buy washing powder, you buy from what is there. You can buy the best because the best doesn't exist. Okay? The only hope is the young leaders, the young activists, to circumvent your question. We're not at fault because we cannot really do anything else. And I'm not promoting.
Do you believe that the system is rigged because the choices that's offered to the people are already wrongly chosen?
The system is always a system. That's why a lot of demonstrators say no climate change, system change. We do need a system change. And we don't need just energy change. Climate justice is a big issue. We not only need to change our energy. The problem with fossil fuels is not that they emit CO2, is that we really spend them like there was no tomorrow. Greed, overconsumption. These things need to change as well. It's not just shifting the energy mix and then the same guys run the show and the same guys don't have money to eat. Okay, so system change is needed, but this conversation is going out to where you need a bottle of scotch to 20. So I mean, it's democracy is what it is. The young activists, they're doing their best. They're bringing in results. And good for them because their future is online. My future is not online. My 5 grandchildren's future is on the line. Okay.
Mm.
So I hope they will manage to change things. I'm totally in support of the young climate activism globally. And I think the only hope that we have is them.
Mm.
I don't really expect the governments to change in time. Definitely the market will not change. Only under
Okay.
pressure. Only under pressure.
There must be something that we can do. So what could we do then, would you say? So the one thing as well, it's important to mention, is that for that real change to happen, it's going to need a change of life for every single one of us. Basically, the way we conduct our life has needs to be happening. For example, we say that you may need to consume less meat, you may need to travel a little less. So that's the kind of sacrifices that it would require. So how can we convey effectively this kind of, like I say, you've seen it all, right? So for the last 45 years, you've been in the sector. And then I'm sure you have an idea, some good lesson that we can learn, a good practice from here and there. What would be the best way to bring people to this sentiment that, okay, they also need to make each of us individually a certain level of effort? So what would be the best way to convey this message to them and
First
get
of
them
all,
to act?
first of all, discussions like this are going a long way. At least people will see this, they will think. They may say, what is this stupid guy talking about? But they will still think. I'd like to really take the weight of the individual effort and keep it on where it is. Plastics. Me saving my Coca-Cola tin thing and putting it in the right bin is a good thing to do. But if they stop producing plastics, they will solve the issue. Okay. I mean, the responsibility of those still pushing plastic bags in supermarkets is more than me buying and putting my stuff in the plastic bag. So stop it at the source for everything. Okay, for everything. I'm be conscious of what you do. I'm very conscious that every time I come to Kenya, I take a plane and my carbon footprint is so big. Okay, I'm hoping I balance it out by what I do. I'm not sure I do, but my carbon footprint is big. I, when I was my family was around, we used to fight every day about doing switching of the lights and all that kind of thing. That's not really it's not going to make a dot in the overall direction. Central decisions make the difference. Electric cars, we're going to have electric cars now. When this becomes a must, it's going to change things. And perhaps it's time to forget about private driving. Do we all need a private car? Can we have more public transport? If you see the footprint of a bus to a car, there's no comparison. Let's have more public buses and a really effective public transportation. We won't need private cars. We beat the air pollution and help the climate change.
Excellent, excellent. I think at least that's some suggestion, idea that people can actually think through and maybe start implementing this change. Like I say, for me, knowledge is not power, it's just potential power. It's what you apply. If you apply knowledge, that actually is the real power. Yeah, so that's what we should say. So now talking about developing locally credible solutions, especially for emerging markets. Yeah. So, and you traveling to Kenya. So, what is the best way? Because you also mentioned something that is very important. We don't want to also repeat the mistakes of the old system or the current system, which is, as I said, as you say, even if we stay OG use oil and gas, the technology, the machine, the equipment doesn't belong to the people that are using it.
Okay,
So how can we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you also don't want the same in the clean energy, right? So that's a chance to also reset the balance a little bit. Yeah. So how can we also make sure that when we're developing those solutions, those credible solutions on the ground, we also encourage people, local people, to take a certain level of ownership so they can really benefit economic from that.
Okay. First of all, I'll say it again. Money has to flow in. Let's talk about Africa. It has to flow into Africa in the form of sponsoring, of funding, not in the form of loans, so that Africa can build its energy transition. Actually, this is, if you think about it, Africa is not an energy transition from fossil fuels to renewables. For most cases, from zero to energy. Guys don't have energy. We have to give them energy. And the energy has to be renewables. Okay, it's a real energy. It's an energy resurrection, if I can say that. So, first of all, we have to make it affordable. SDG 7 talks about clean, affordable energy. How can it be affordable unless it's the money is funded? Africa, in order for people to become the owners of the means of production, and this is very communist, but anyway, it's how it sounds. They don't have the money to buy. The only solution in Africa is the productive uses, you know that. But still, even that is really only few people can do that. Not everybody can. It's important to bring in energy so that the level of economic activity is increasing, the level of the GDP is increasing, everybody is lifted up. Students at my university are dropping out because they cannot pay the fees. Education, health, public transport, they're not free, you pay. You pay. And people are dropping out in order to do some menial jobs, very low pay in order to survive. Okay, so introducing renewable energy has to be in the background that Africa and Kenya, that I know well, already offers it. A background of low income, of low economic activity. So a lot of support is needed. Okay, it's not just come in, bring in your money, invest, take the cream of the investment and go. The people cannot respond to that.
Mm.
So I think productive use is an answer, because you give him the energy without paying, he increases his economic activity, he gets some more money. So, it's a clever way of doing it, but it's not enough. You need to find more solutions.
Yeah, definitely. Productive use is one way to look at that, because if giving people just the light without giving them the way to increase the economic activity, what you found out is actually it's not going to really move the needle. And I think we've seen that a lot in many places, case studies, and the continent. So let me just also ask you another practical question. I know you're not an economist, but these are questions I believe we need to discuss so that people can really think through what is happening and make the right decision. So how do we really manage the transition out of fossil fuel? Bear in mind that in many countries, for example, India with the coal sector, South Africa with coal as well. So there is a big part of the population that depend on those industries. Okay, the country tomorrow takes, let's say, I think India is sort of making step, but they need to go faster. That's fine, yeah. And South Africa as well, probably. They take a decision. Let's imagine they listen to this podcast and say, Yanis Tipodidis is right. And we gotta be brave. And we're gonna be closing, the coal sector, in the next 2 years. But that means we're having, millions and millions of people, out of work. So how do we properly manage it? Because this guy, what's the point for you to have clean energy if you can't feed your family? So those are practical questions people like you and I also need to discuss. And I'd like to hear your answer, because I say, with your experience, I'm sure you thought through that already. I just want to have your opinion. I know you're not an economist. I'm not expecting you to give me all the answer in terms of the economy, but how should it look like, that transition out of fossil fuels, take into account the socio-economic aspect of the question?
This is the one clear downside of the energy transition, that you have to take a lot of people out of the fossil fuel industry, whichever that is, oil, coal, or gas, and retrain them. You cannot retrain, obviously, all of them. There are all people who cannot be retrained. Okay, so we are facing this in Greece. Greece has lignite. Lignite has been really the backbone of the energy system. This government has taken the decision to delignitize the energy system by 2027 or 28, if I'm remembering correctly. So there is a huge study and program in collaboration with Brussels, how to transit the region of Ptolemaida, is a northwestern Greece, from the black coal era to the green new era. Big photovoltaics are being built, okay, as the obvious solution. Energy crops are being cultivated in where the coal mines were, the lignite mines were. It's a slow process. I accept that this is an issue that has to be faced, but it's not an issue that we're going to shy away and say, no, we cannot do that. We have to offer to those people clean, green, better jobs than the jobs they had. They would love it. From, working in a coal mine and breathing coal air with coal particles all day, they would love it working in a photovoltaic plant. And as I said before, 75% is still fossil fuel. Imagine if we turn this around, how many plants we will need. Those people and the factories that will produce the solar panels and the wind parts. Since I'm talking about it, another downside is rare earths and materials that are needed for renewables. Recycling is there, but they need to really, consider that very carefully. Solution, technology and science is always there to give and has given solutions. This is not excuses to run away from what we have to do. It's a cleaner, it's a better world that can come out of this, provided we'll do it quickly, and we won't do it in. We have time to live and enjoy it, because if we go to 4 degrees, nobody knows. The runaway climate change, nobody knows what it would look like.
No, that's good. I think that's great what you're saying. Another way for me to look at that, which is also what has to be said to people. Where we sit at the moment, whichever way we're going, it's going to be painful. The question is, which pain is worth it?
Okay. I'll buy that. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So,
and the longer we delay, the more painful it will be.
Yeah. So you want to decide which pain is actually worth it. I think if it's the pain that's going to cure you ultimately later, or the pain that actually going to kill you ultimately later. So you want to decide which one you want to go. So and if it's not you struggling, your generation definitely will struggle. So definitely. So Yanis, let me just you want to say one thing?
I want to say that the money for this change transition is there. See the windfall that all those big oil companies had this winter. You're in the UK, you know what happened. Billions and trillions out of the gas prices, the fossil gas prices, okay? And that's, the gas did not change in value, the market changed its value, and they made profits, huge profits. What about feeding those profits down south and creating, or in India, you're right, or wherever there is a coal mine, shut the coal mine and put up a PV station. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No problem. I think, to be honest, this conversation, I think we can have another 10 conversations like that. It would definitely not finish. Let me just think about bringing us up to an end to this conversation, because, like I said, it's been very, very interesting. But I have 2 questions that I have left for you. And the first one of them is, who is your inspiration out of this world? Is there one person that you admire? One or two people? What would you say? Who are
they? No one stands in mind at the moment. Not that I don't have, but you caught me, I'm unaware now. I can't really think. There are people who influenced me in Greece, but what influenced me more, if I can rephrase your question to provide an answer, there was, I will send it to you, perhaps you can add it to the podcast. There was a cartoon that was going around in the 70s. And actually, I used it in the article that I mentioned at the beginning of this discussion. So the cartoon had this big oil guy, with a cigar and fat as me, with a suit, saying, "You want coal? We got the mines. You want oil? We got the wells. You want nuclear? We got uranium. You want solar? We got the solar is not feasible." That cartoon made what I am. I'm a chemical engineer. I finished my chemical engineering and I went to do solar energy. I shifted because of that, but that was a Greenpeace cartoon that was circulated in the 70s, Leeds, Yorkshire. So that is what changed me. Okay.
So basically, that cartoon character inspire your journey up until now.
The message that was coming out of that. The message that was coming out of that. And just think that we were in the 70s and somebody was talking about solar energy. And somebody else was preventing solar energy. And the second guy was very successful because he's been preventing it up to now. We haven't really taken off. So
that's fine. Probably a good point at this point.
My children, my grandchildren inspire me now. So I'm very happy to be a daddy and a granddaddy. So
I'm sure they're learning a lot from you. You know,
I'll learn from them too. I'll learn from them too.
It's a two-way street, absolutely. So, one final word you will have for people listening to this episode of the podcast, which for me has been fabulous so far.
What I think is important, if I had my way, if I could influence media, let's say, I would do something that would be boring, but it would be very, very critical for me. I would make it one item news every day, during the day, every other day. Only climate change. It's a survival thing. We don't know whether we're going to survive. It's not just a discussion and then you change and you watch football. The climate crisis is going to define the lives of the young generations very dramatically. And we're talking about celebrities, influencers, whatnot, TikTok. We should have one item in the agenda: how to tackle climate crisis. That should be number one. So I think that's what I want to say. For me, it's number one. For me, it's number one. It will define the lives of everybody on this planet, even those on board. Can you imagine? Those on board depend on the decisions we will take. Climate change is not going to go. Even if tomorrow we stop, after this podcast, everybody says, okay, they're right, stop. We start building renewables. Climate change is not going to stop. The temperature will begin to rise still because there is an inertia in the system. Okay? We're not going to get away with it so easily. It's not like you have to file your tax returns and you file them on the last day. You can't do that. Climate change is a response you have to start yesterday and achieve it. No more delays. We passed the time of responsibility. Now we live in the irresponsible era. We have to prove that we're Homo sapiens. We're Homo stupidus. We're not Homo sapiens.
So on those very good notes, so Yanis, so let me just say it was a fantastic discussion. I think, like I say, so you are a wealth of knowledge, yeah. So like I say, so good discussion all around, and I'm hoping that people would have listened to you, look at everything that you have to say, and I'm pretty much sure you would have inspired a few, right? Definitely for me, you keep on inspiring me, so that's the reason I wanted you to have on this podcast. And it's a pleasure for me
to
have had you.
It was a pleasure. It's always my pleasure to talk about my favorite subject. So thank you for the opportunity. I will send you the cartoon. And if anybody wants to watch it and after that wants to swear at me or say, well done, you keep them access.
No problem. Do send it. And definitely, I like the idea of the one item news in the agenda every day. So that's actually original. Excellent.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for that.
And it was really a pleasure seeing you, and I hope to see you in Kenya this summer.
Definitely.
Our workshop. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Lovely talking to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode of Renewables in Action. I hope you learned one or two things today. If you have, please do take action. Also, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any other platform that you like. You can reach out to me, Tonity, on LinkedIn to connect, to share your feedback. I look forward to speaking with you. Until then, may the sun be with you. See you next time on the Renewables in Action podcast.